101, 7 The Truth, Tory Lowe Show, DJ Brother Z on the ones and twos. Hey, look, Truth Nation, we got a guest. We got Senator Ron Johnson through VMix. So if you're watching as we broadcast live on YouTube, you'll see U.S. Senator Ron Johnson in our live chat. How you doing, Senator?
Well, Tory, I'm doing well. I hope you are too.
Hey, look, it's a lot to cover. I don't know how much time you got, but I got a couple questions I need to talk about. It's a lot of things going on in the state of Wisconsin. I'll start with this situation with the judge. There's talk about what took place. They're saying that the situation had to do with her aiding somebody that may have been looking for through maybe the feds may have been looking for somebody, federal government been looking for somebody, and she was arrested, Hannah Dogan, alleging that she obstructed a detention of an undocumented migrant. What do you know about this situation?
Only what I've read, and I've read a fair amount. What I do know that under the Biden administration, we allowed probably somewhere around 10 million people into this country completely unvetted. And now President Trump ran a campaign. One of his primary promises was to secure the border, which he's by and large done, and start deporting particularly the criminals. And he's doing that. But what's happening now is his efforts are being frustrated by people like the judge, other individuals. Again, there's no way you can let 10 million plus people coming here completely vetted and then expect to be able to give full due process rights to people who are in this country illegally. They're not U.S. citizens, but at a minimum, when you are an officer of the court, and that's what a judge is, and there are lawful arrest warrants or whatever those federal agents had, you need to honor those things. I know the chief judge of that court was apparently writing up rules for how they handle that. By the way, one of the reasons that ICE tries to apprehend people when they're already in a safe setting is for public safety, for the safety of the officers themselves. I mean, if you have to go and conduct a search warrant or an arrest at somebody's location, that's very dangerous for everybody. We've seen that time and time again. So the safest place to apprehend somebody who might be dangerous would be when they're at a court proceeding, probably on some other criminal charge or something. That's a very safe place to do it. The courts ought to cooperate with federal law enforcement. In this case, this judge did not. Instead, she obstructed justice, and she'll pay the price. I mean, again, an officer of the court has, from my standpoint, an even higher duty to uphold the law and not to obstruct justice.
Do you think that her actions will send a message to what they're calling activist judges across the country that may feel like they can, not adhere to some of the Trump administration ideas on when it comes to illegal immigration?
Well, anytime we arrest somebody, charge them with a crime, convict them, one of the reasons we do that is to deter other people from committing the same crime. Now, unfortunately, as you listen to I guess there's a judge up in northwest Wisconsin says she's going to shut down the courts, because of the situation.
Right.
Unfortunately, on the left side of the political spectrum, and we have most members of the media also on the left side, these people are actually emboldened by this. They shouldn't be. I mean, anybody who's now an officer of the court ought to take away from this that they need to follow the law. They need to cooperate with ICE when they're carrying out lawful arrest warrants and that type of thing. So it should be a warning. It should hopefully produce more adherence to the law, compliance with the law. But right now, radical leftists, they are in full mode, Trump derangement syndrome and protest mode, and I'm not sure it's going to have the kind of effect it really should have, which is to deter obstruction.
What do you have to say to the people that feel like the judge was targeted and she shouldn't be arrested? What do you have to say to those that feel that she probably acted within the scope of what she could do as a judge.
Again, it wasn't a case before her. She's an officer of the court. She needs to respect, legal arrest warrants and legal proceedings. And she didn't do that. And in doing so, she endangered public safety. Again, I'll reiterate, the reason it's a good idea to go and arrest somebody who has a valid arrest warrant inside a court, inside a safe space, is for the safety of that individual together with anybody else around that individual. I mean, trying to execute a search warrant or an arrest warrant at somebody's location where they may be holed up with guns and other armaments, it's a very dangerous situation for the law enforcement officials as well as everybody in that house. Okay, we've seen it time and time and time again. So again, when you have a legal arrest warrant, do it. Try and execute that search warrant or that arrest warrant in as safe a situation as possible. Inside a courthouse is a pretty safe spot because there are metal detectors and people aren't armed, and there are other law enforcement officials there to make sure that things don't get out of hand.
All right. Well, had to ask you about it. It's what's going on right here in the city of Milwaukee. Everybody talking about it. Thank you for answering the question. Also, Trump's first 100 days in office, how do you rate his performance, and particularly in relation to his campaign promises?
Well, I think more than any president in my lifetime, Donald Trump in his first term and his second time are honoring those promises. Whether I necessarily agree with all of them or not, he's doing exactly what he said he was going to do. Now, in most situations, I couldn't be happier that he's acting boldly, swiftly, and decisively to secure the border, to begin deporting criminals that are a clear and present danger to this nation. The fact that he's doing everything he can to end the wars in the Middle East, in Ukraine, the fact that he is starting to stamp out all the wokeism, protect our girls from biological males in their sports, in their locker rooms, in their bathrooms. So again, across the board, there's so many things that I completely agree with President Trump. I'm concerned about his tariffs. Every time he would say that was the most beautiful word in the English language, I would wince, knowing that tariffs are a tax. I mean, they're a tax on consumer goods. I completely agree with President Trump that we have allowed, by being generous in our markets, we've allowed key, crucial national security types of manufactured products to not be produced in this country anymore. And that's a real national security interest issue. And so that's something that absolutely needs to be addressed. But, the global trade war right now obviously is disrupting the market. It's disrupting supply chains. We've got a lot of manufacturers. We've got farmers that can be retaliated against in these global trade wars. So I appreciate the fact that there's a 90-day pause on this. The sooner we can bring certainty to our economy, stability. I come from the private sector. You don't invest money when things are, unstable.
Now,
or there's a high level of insecurity.
Now I have to ask you
or
this
uncertainty.
question.
So I mean, I'm looking for stabilized situations. The sooner the better.
Well, and I would have to ask you this question: how are these policies going to affect us right here in the state of Wisconsin, our economy, when it comes to job creation and trade?
We kind of have to see how it all plays out. Again, if he uses the tariffs the way he did in his first term to accomplish a good end, open trade, lower tariffs to U.S. manufactured products around the world. If he uses them that way, it could come out really well. If it continues and we have across the board tariffs in place for a long time, and we have trade wars that are highly disruptive to our supply chains, that won't go so well. I'm not privy to his strategy. If he's trying to negotiate, I do get the fact that being unpredictable in negotiations can, inure to your benefit. So right now, all I can really do is give him the benefit of the doubt that he's got a strategy here that, again, President Trump understands that one of the reasons he got elected is because of inflation. He doesn't want to spark inflation. He realized that it's, James Carville was right. It's the economy, stupid. He's going to do everything we can to have a vibrant economy. He wants to, again, make America great again. So I understand those are his goals. I share those goals.
Well,
I'm a little nervous about the current measures here he's taking in terms of the trade wars and tariffs.
I was going to ask you this. What's one good thing that you like so far within the 100 days of Trump administration, and what's one bad thing that you don't like when it comes to Trump and this administration?
Well, I think I laid out a bunch of the good things. I mean,
Right.
he secured the border. You know, we are deporting some very dangerous people that President Biden let in. We've seen the horrific crimes, the rapes, the murders that occurred because of that. So he's mopping up that big mess. Okay, and it's a big mess. It's going to take a lot of time to do it. I like the fact that he's stamping out wokeism in our military and through in other institutions as well. So those are good things. Again, I'm just concerned, and I'm making him very well aware of his administration, the pain that's causing to Wisconsin businesses and Wisconsinites. So that right now is the only thing I can really do is just make sure he's well aware, his administration is well aware of the problems that are occurring because of the instability, uncertainty, and the tariff war.
And I'll ask you this question because I know you got a busy schedule. Congress is back after 2-week recess. What are the top priorities you hope to address in the coming weeks?
Spending, spending, spending. Reduce the size, scope, and cost of government. It's intrusion into our lives. Tory, I don't want to talk about too many numbers, but in 2019, before the pandemic, total federal government spending was $4.4 trillion, or let me put it a different way, $4,400 billion a year. That's what we're spending. Now we're spending $7,000 billion a year. We had the pandemic. We had this massive spending spree, and we never stopped. I use the analogy of a family. If a member of their audience tragically had an illness that they had to borrow $50,000 to pay for medical bills, if that family member got well, they wouldn't keep borrowing $50,000 and keep spending that level. That's insane. Nobody would do that. That's exactly what the federal government did. So the next 4 weeks is going to be crucial. I've been writing about this in the Wall Street Journal, that we have to return to a reasonable pre-pandemic spending level, the way American families would. Unfortunately, we got a lot of big spenders in Washington, D.C. in both parties. And, I'm hitting resistance, but I think me, I'm pretty tenacious, and I've got a pretty irrefutable case to make that we have to return to a reasonable pre-pandemic spending level. We can't maintain this level of deficit spending.
Now, before you get off the line, I got to ask you this one too. What is this conversation about? You want to hold hearings about what happened on 9/11? Because I'm seeing that making the rounds. What is this? Are we trying to? I heard that they called you a conspiracy theorist when it comes to what happened in September. But why are you pushing for this? What is the purpose of this?
So all these conspiracy theories I was accused of all become true. Now, this all began when, as ranking member of the Permanent Subcommittee Investigation, my chairman wanted to investigate the deal that was trying to be struck between the PGA Tour and Live Golf and the Public Investment Fund from Saudi Arabia. And part of that hearing, we were approached by 9/11 families who wanted the truth about 9/11. The FBI, our federal government, has a lot of information they have not released, and so they were asking us to request, utilize our oversight authority to have the FBI come clean. What did you know about the bin Laden? So, we want to know. Our families, we had family members, loved ones die in 9/11. We want to know the truth. Well, that's now expanded in terms of Kurt Weldon coming out, representing firefighters. I mean, there are so many unanswered questions involving 9/11. The door was opened up in terms of my eyes being opened and my, inquisitiveness over here by basically those hearings we held on a bipartisan basis on PGA Golf and Saudi Arabia's deal making in terms of that. And it's just opened up. Again, these are legitimate questions that people who lost loved ones in 9/11, the firefighters, for example, if you've watched any of the documentaries on Building 7, you realize there are a lot of unanswered questions that have just pretty well been swept under the rug. People want to know these things. So again, I'm just asking the legitimate questions that 9/11 families and the firefighters want answered.
Well, is there anything that you want to talk about before you go? Because there's a lot that you got to cover. I know you got a busy schedule. Is there anything that you want the people listening to know, Senator?
Well, I've always said that we ought to have done a 3-part reconciliation process. This is getting into budget wonkery. But the first thing we should have done is provided President Trump the funding he needed to secure the border. Secondly, we should have taken an automatic massive tax increase off the table. And the third step would have been what we're dealing with right now is the great big beautiful bill, which is going to be very complex, very difficult to pass. We could have already had, two really good things for the American public and for the economy, but now we're embroiled in these discussions. And again, I'm making everybody aware that this isn't catching anybody by surprise. There's a bunch of us digging our heels and saying we have to return to a reasonable pre-pandemic level of spending. If we don't do that, this reconciliation, the big beautiful bill is not passing anytime soon, which is unfortunate because there's some really important things we need to do. Again, make sure we don't have a massive tax increase, provide funding to secure the border and for our nation's defense. It's not too late to do a three-step process, so I'll continue to push for that, particularly if we hit a roadblock with the one big beautiful bill.
All right. Well, I'll say this. I wouldn't want to be in your spot right now. It's a lot going on.
Well, it's not boring.
I see. Well, like I said, I appreciate you for stopping through, Senator Ron Johnson. And once again, thank you for just allowing us to get a few questions answered, especially on what was going on with the judge. I appreciate you for answering those questions. And thank you, and continue to do the work that you're doing.
Well, stay well, and God bless you and your audience. Take care.
All right. God bless you. All right, look, when we come back, we'll be joined by Marquette Hall of Famer Tony Smith. Truth Nation, stay locked in right here on Tory Lowe.